I'm about to build an incredibly cheap Salad AI rig with leftover hardware from my GPU mining farm. So basically I've been selling off a lot of my mining GPUs for crypto mining, and I want to see if I can repurpose them into a Salad AI rig to generate passive income at home. But I don't want to spend a ton of money on all the other components. So today we're going to build this and see if it's profitable on Salad AI. Let's get into it. All right, guys, let's take a quick look at the parts list here, what each part costs and what exactly they are. So starting off here, we have an ASRock B450 motherboard. This is about the cheapest B450 you can get on Amazon. It's about $70. It is a micro ATX board. I'm specifically wanting to make a pretty small PC, which is also why I got this little frame right here. So this is like a little test bench frame off of Amazon, only $19, so much cheaper than like a standard case. Next up here, we need a CPU cooler. This is like 20 bucks, very cheap cooler, and also didn't want RGB because this might become like a little gaming PC rig in my family room. Up next, we have a Aries Games 750 watt PSU. This is a bronze PSU, but for the price, it's worth it. It's 50 bucks. I was not able to find any even used PCs for 750 watts for that cheap, so pretty good deal on that. For the CPU, we have a Ryzen 3600. So this is used. You can get these for about 50 bucks, and hopefully this is going to be plenty of capacity. We will see on that. And since this is AM4, we could go up to like a 5900X, which is actually what this one is running. But we will see how this does first. Now for RAM and SSD, I have an NVMe drive right here. This is nothing special, just a Fanzion 1 terabyte. I will have links to all of these products down below, guys, by the way. And then Corsair RAM right here. I believe this is the Dominator, but really any DDR4. This is a 16 gigabyte kit, which may be too small. We'll have to see. If so, I need to upgrade to maybe 32 or 64, but this is what I had on hand, so this is what we're gonna use. And really, we should have a pretty cool blacked out build now that I'm looking at all these parts. Everything is kind of blacked out, though this does have some RGB on it as well. So that's the part list. Let's go ahead and start building this thing. Hey guys, quick interruption to talk about today's sponsor, Via BTC. If you're mining Bitcoin or Litecoin, you're not going to want to miss this. Via BTC offers a few different ways to boost your mining rewards compared to other pools. First off, Via BTC offers merged mining. This allows you to mine multiple cryptos at the same time. For example, when mining Litecoin, you will automatically be mining Dogecoin, Bells, Pepe, Junkcoin, and Lucky Coin at the same time. Merge mining is also available on Bitcoin. The second way to earn extra income with Via BTC is pool referrals. Refer anyone and you can get 10 to 20% of their mining fees. Via BTC also has an insanely competitive 2-hour payout schedule. So if you aren't already, definitely check out Via BTC and see if you can increase your mining rewards today. I'll leave a link down below, and let's get back to the video. This is going to be quite the interesting build, guys. There's a couple unique things that happened during this build that maybe hasn't happened in my past builds on this channel. And if you guys are new here, I'm Modern Mining. Traditionally, this channel is all about GPU mining and budget crypto mining at home. But with GPU mining kind of being in a slump right now, I'm really looking to expand my channel and kind of my revenue streams into different avenues. And that's where this video right here comes in. So I have, at the time of filming, about 36 3070 GPUs just sitting in my basement. 12 of them are still mining crypto, but the rest are kind of unused right now. And so I'm trying to find some different ways to repurpose those GPUs so that I don't have to sell them. And they make basically no money on GPU mining, but I did do a prior 30-day test on Salad with a 3080 GPU, and it did turn out to be profitable. Now, it wasn't crazy profits by any means, but it was certainly better than kind of just sitting there off. But the issue with Salad and some of these other kind of AI platforms is you need more than just the GPU. I would love if I could point my 12 GPU mining rigs to Salad, but you need all the supporting hardware. You need a good CPU, you need a lot of RAM, you need an NVMe SSD drive that's relatively high speed. And so that's where this video comes in, is that I'm trying to take some of my retired mining GPUs and turn them into profitable salad machines for the lowest price possible. And so we already went over the parts list in the beginning of this video, but I basically chose the most budget components that I could find, and we'll see if that ends up hurting me. So I am gonna do a 30-day profitability test on salad with this rig and see, all right, maybe it just didn't work out. I went too cheap on the components, or maybe it turns out to make just as much money as my 3080 rig, which uses 32 gigs of RAM, a 5900X CPU. Basically, all the components are upgraded a tiny bit. So let's get into the build here. This case that I got is sort of like a open air test bench frame, and this thing is kind of the highlight of the video in my opinion. So I have never had a traditional test bench, and once I built this rig, I did use this kind of as a test bench to test some GPUs, and it was very nice. It's much better than having to reach into a traditional PC case and pull the GPU in and out. This makes it much easier to just kind of pop it on and pop it off, and it was honestly a pleasure to build with this thing, and for $19 I'd say that's a steal. For the CPU here, we're using a Ryzen 5 3600. This is a CPU that I already had from actually my original gaming PC that I built probably 6 or 7 years ago at this point. And some funny things about this CPU is I have a prior video on this channel where I ripped this CPU out of the socket when I was uninstalling a CPU cooler. And luckily that CPU turned out okay, though the motherboard that I was using, it was a MSI B450 Tomahawk, I think. It was dead. So this CPU has seen some things, but it does still work. It definitely had like a couple bent pins that I was able to kind of push back into place, but I was a little hesitant putting it in this build just to make sure that it was actually going to work. Now for the other components here, I did already have this Fanziong NVMe drive on hand, and I also had the RAM on hand. So at the beginning of the video, I still calculated the cost of these for anyone who would want to build a rig like this, but I did have a lot of these pieces kind of already on hand, and that also played a part in kind of the part choice for this rig. Now most of these parts I did get off Amazon, but I did do my due diligence to check on Facebook Marketplace and see if I could find any kind of extra good deals. And it really is unfortunate, at least in my area, that a lot of people who are selling on Facebook are, I guess, not looking at Amazon prices, because especially with the PSU that I use in this, I tried really hard to find like a 1000 watt used PSU for like 70 bucks or something like that, get a nice gold PSU, but every used PSU I found was actually more expensive than like new variants on Amazon, which was just crazy to me, because I wish I could find kind of good used PSUs, even though a lot of people would probably not recommend buying used PSUs in the first place. So we did go with a pretty budget bronze PSU, but I think that's okay for now. I can always kind of sell that if I find a better deal down the line, and in an effort to keep everything as cheap as possible, $50 for 750 watt was definitely the best thing I could find. Now this CPU cooler, nothing special from there, just a cheap one I found on Amazon. Like I mentioned earlier, I did want this to be kind of blacked out. I didn't want any RGB fans, because this salad rig is basically going to be mining 24/7 in my garage. So every time I open the garage or get in my car, I don't want to be hit with a big RGB fan. So that's just why I decided to use this one. Obviously, guys, don't forget to peel back that sticker on the bottom of the CPU cooler. Funny thing about that is it's not just average PC builders who forget to pull that sticker off. My wife's car is a Honda Accord, and it was a recall for basically the internal CPU system. Her little dashboard PC was always crashing, and after digging into it, if you go in there and pull the heatsink off of the chip they have in there, they forgot to pull the plastic off. So if that ever happens to you, don't feel too bad. Even large scale manufacturers can forget that as well. But so far the build has been going right on schedule. Nothing has been too difficult here. Now we are going to run into a small issue a little later, but certainly nothing too big. Now for those of you who aren't familiar with Salad, Salad is a AI platform that you basically rent out your workload to, and they're going to pay you for it. There is a few different kind of AI platforms like this, though I think Salad is probably the most user friendly, or the most kind of intro level. And that's why I've specifically made this will be my second video on Salad. I do plan to test some of the others, but I do like how easy Salad is to use. So I will go ahead and put one of my Salad referral links down below if you haven't used Salad before and you've got a pretty good gaming PC, especially if you're on like free power in a dorm or something like that. Then it makes a lot of sense to run Salad or some sort of AI platform when you're not using your PC, because if you're on free power, that is 100% free money, and even if you're not, you can probably still ink out a few dollars a day. That's not too bad. So rig's starting to come together good here. Now we just need to plug in the PSU and the GPU. Now, sneak peek, I do end up changing the GPU halfway through the video because of I didn't like the RGB on the one that I chose. So I do end up putting a Founders Edition 3070 on here, which still to this day is one of my favorite looking GPUs. They are just super nice and clean. I've never had any kind of heat issues with them, no fan issues, and some of these ones I've had mining for 4 to 5 years at this point. So been pretty happy with those GPUs in general. Now this case does come with screw holes for the PSU, which is very nice. I don't have to mess with any Velcro or anything like that. Everything is nice and secure. Now the one bad thing about this PSU is that it's not modular, so I am going to have kind of some extra cables hanging off the back here that I wouldn't have if it was a modular PSU. But that's all right. I can always kind of bundle them up and put a zip tie on them, which is what I think I end up doing here. Now you guys will notice I'm wearing just the hairiest little black sweatshirt ever. I guess I didn't realize how hairy it was, but I also didn't really expect to be in the shot. So I built this super early one morning, and I do have a golden retriever, so I'm constantly covered in hair. But try to ignore that because I think it's probably the hairiest sweater I've ever worn on this channel. So these GPUs have been mining for multiple months, so I did go ahead and take the liberty to air blow them before I put them on there, just to make sure they're nice and clean, and that does help, and honestly removes basically all of the dust inside of them. And once you do that, it's really even hard to tell that they've been mining for any sort of long period of time. So this is the benefit of this case here. You just snap this card right in, put a screw in, and then it is good to go. You have a ton of movement or room for movement around the card, so it's very easy to kind of get down to it. So let's get this GPU plugged into the power supply here. It does take 2 PCIe slots. Always fun to kind of try to get those oriented the same way. And once that's plugged in, this thing is ready to test. So let's hope that that 3600 CPU works. All right, guys, let's plug in our power button. I should have done this earlier. See if I can even see down in there to figure out where this needs to go. Shit, it's not looking good. I can maybe barely get it under the GPU. I may have to take the GPU off. Yep, GPU's got to come off. It's always something. Overall, though, I do really like this case. Power button right there. Planning on doing some cable management here in a second, but just want to make sure everything boots up. This 3600 CPU definitely had like a minor bent pin at one point. This was the one that a couple videos back I ripped out of the CPU socket on accident. So very scared to see if this is going to boot up or not. Plug in our power cord and hope for the best. All right, let's flip her on. Come on, baby. All right, everything's spinning, CPU spinning. And then that red RAM actually looks pretty sweet with the all black build. Might have to see if I can get into the Gigabyte software and change this to maybe a red. Fortunately, I don't have any. Actually, I could put like a Founders Edition 3070 on there instead of that RGB one, because this may be going into my main living room. So something like this might look a lot better than that RGB, but I actually do like the red Dominator RAM. That looks pretty sweet. So that is spinning. That's what I was worried about. If that CPU was bad, then that would not be working right now. So I think we're good to go ahead and plug a monitor up and go from there. Going to steal the HDMI cable from this salad rig over here. Plug that in. Man, this GPU's got 6 ports on it. That's kind of crazy. All right, that's in there. Now, I did get one other item here. Since I mentioned that this is going to go into my family room, I wanted a wireless keyboard that also has a trackpad on it. So let's get this USB installed so maybe we can get into the BIOS here and turn on the AC power on. And I'm trying to remember, where did I put the little dongle? Oh, it's on this side. Okay, let's plug that in. Cover this back up. Turn this on right here. And try this again. Come on, baby, get us into BIOS. All right. Mouse is working and the keyboard appears to be working, so that's awesome. This thing's going to come in handy for sure. Probably be, if I do ever use this for games or anything, I will be using a controller. But first, obviously, we're going to test it for salad. So the main thing I want to do for ease of use is turn on the AC power off feature so that I can just use this power switch to turn off and on the rig. That will make it much, much easier. Now, though I need to figure out where that actually is at. There it is, restore AC power loss. We'll turn that to power on. And that should be good for now. Now we're going to have to install Windows on this thing, and I think I want to do Windows 10. So we'll go ahead and hit F10 and save our changes. All right, so I'm going to swap in this Founders Edition 3070. Just wanted to take a look at these cards. So this has been mining since basically 2021. And you can see, I mean, overall, let's see if I can get a good look at this. Pretty dusty, but I've taken relatively good care of them. Try to blow it out again right now and see if I can get some of that stuff out of the fins. But overall, definitely not too bad. Going through the Windows 10 installation now. All right, guys, it's actually been about a month since that last clip. I had a ton of stuff come up, and I have been using this rig as a test bench for selling GPUs, and I did try to put it in the family room kind of as a gaming device, though I don't play a lot of games at this point. I'm too busy. So I did bring it back down here, and I'm currently in the process of setting up salad on it, which kind of was the original intent. But I just got so sidetracked. But I am installing salad right now. We're going to do a basically 30-day test on a budget salad rig and see how it goes. However, I am running into an issue right here that says basically with 16 gigabytes of RAM, it's insufficient. The 3070 is a mid-demand GPU. It could make some money, but with 16 gigabytes of RAM, it's going to be holding me back. So what I'm going to do is pull the 32 gigabyte RAM kit out of my 3080 salad rig. I haven't been running that one because the profits just weren't that crazy and it was getting kind of hot in the garage. I may turn that back on in the future, but right now I'm really just curious on, can you build a cheap budget salad rig with a 3070 that used to mine, and how much money is that going to make? We know the 3080 rig can make a pretty small amount of salad money, especially for the cost, but how does a 3070 do? So that's what I wanted to figure out. So I'm going to switch that RAM over right now, and then hopefully we get this going. One thing I didn't mention, and you guys are probably wondering, this is my new sort of recording setup. It's mainly meant for doing like product reviews on Amazon, but I think it looks really good and clean compared to what I had in the past. Now the only downside here is that my little watt plug is hidden back there, but hey, we can always take a peek at it when we need to. So I'm gonna get salad set up now. Okay guys, we are chopping now. As a reminder, there's a few settings that you want to switch. when you start Salad. You want to turn crypto mining off. You want to turn adult content on. And in my opinion, you want to turn bandwidth sharing off as well. So those are the three main settings. You should be at 5 out of 6 on the chopping power. And now we're just gonna let that do its thing. I'm gonna follow up in about a month, just like I did on my 3080 build over here, and we will see what the results look like. Now also, I'm going to plug it back in my Govee smart plug. This is what allows me to track the exact wattage that this rig is using, because when it doesn't have a job, it's basically using nothing, but when it finds a job, it might be pulling 300 to 400 watts. So this is the most accurate way to check it, and I will have links for this down below. If you haven't seen my previous 3080 build and test on Salad, check out that video right here. And as always, if you need to buy GPUs for AI workloads or even GPU mining, check out my site gpudeals.net. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'm excited to see what the results of this are in 30 days. If it looks good, I might be building a couple more of these Salad rigs. Peace.